some of where I see companies get, well, I'll start off with how do I define diversity. And first off, I'll say that 90% of who I am, you cannot see. Yet we make 90% of our judgments based on the 10% that we do see. I think a big part of how we define diversity is about going beyond the 10% to get to know more of the 90% of who people are. Because that's where we tap into the talent. That's where we tap into the diversity of thought, the diversity of background, the diversity of values. That's where culture lives. And so I think where many companies get it wrong is they stop at the 10%, or they focus only on the 10%, or even mainly on the 10%. And so the focus of their diversity efforts becomes about numbers alone. And we say that you can have diversity, i.e., different people working together, but if those people are not functioning in an inclusive environment, which talks about the culture, then you don't get to leverage the strengths of the diversity, right? So when we find companies that mainly focus only on diversity and don't focus on inclusion as well as diversity, we find companies fall short and fall flat on their face. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Phillips. Kate.
It's a really good question. I don't have a great answer. I mean, I think that right now a lot of people are grasping for straws. I think that, at least in my world, right, which is sort of like Silicon Valley, venture capital, where everyone's just running as fast as they can and sometimes into walls. And so I think a lot about diversity of perspective because I'm investing in companies when they have 2 to 8 people. And those people are going to be critical decision makers in getting the proverbial ball rolling, and that ball is going to pick up people as fast as they can if they're successful, right? And so I think a lot about like who are the first 10 employees and what's the diversity of perspective that they're bringing to the technology, that they're bringing to their customer experience, and that they're bringing to specifically working connected devices, like understanding and visualizing data. So those are the ways that I think about it. And then I also think about it on the investment side, so as an investor, and the sort of lack of diversity, let's say, of intersectional identity, just for an easy way to talk about it, on the decision-making and investment side. Because if that team of 2 to 8 people doesn't ever get funded, the ball doesn't get rolling. So I think a lot about the first 10 employees at startups, and I think a lot about the people sitting on the other side of the desk writing the checks. And those are kind of the 2 perspectives that I think I bring.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Meisha.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. What I will start out by saying is I definitely want to echo what Adriana shared, the 2 slides that showed sexual orientation, gender, generations, those verticals, definitely diversity and inclusion. And echo what we heard Dr. Jones say and what we heard Kate say. Here is what I would add and I would ask for you to capture. When you talk about diversity and inclusion, it's understanding the journey. If you remember, diversity kind of started out as this thing of compliance. And so we talk about diversity and inclusion along the journey of compliance, diversity, and inclusion. Compliance being a state of doing. It's just, we've got to do it. We've got to do it because in the corporate world, we have what? We have corporate agreements, we have contractual agreements, and so we have customers that tell us, thou shalt, you will be diverse. Diversity is a state of being. It is something that we inherently are. So that 90%, that 10% we heard Dr. Jones talk about, the challenge in the Silicon Valley that we heard Kate talk about. I live that every day at Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is a split from the Hewlett Packard company, which I'm sure you guys know well. And what we say about inclusion is a state of mind. It is a state of thinking. It is where we have to be intentional, strategic, and deliberate as we approach. And we're going to talk a little bit later about what this diversity and inclusion means and what it looks like. And I'll share the corporate lens. But again, diversity, compliance being a state of doing, diversity being a state of being, and then inclusion being a state of mind. It's about what we think, what our hearts say, what we feel, and again, it's strategic, intentional, purposeful. And I'll pause here.
Well, the next question reminds me of a joke.